Hey guys, this video is going to be the continuation of my 4-part tutorial series, or I suppose just modeling showcase series on the T-70 light tank. So I'll just get right into it. Well, I guess first I should say what the video is. I'm going to be going from this stage, which is where we left off in the first video, and I'm going to be going to this stage. So just adding all the details to the hull, or not all of them, but most of them, which are asymmetric. So in the first video we did all the details that could be mirrored over the center plane, and in this video I'm going to do things like the transmission access hatch, the radiators, all that stuff, the exhausts. So that kind of thing that is asymmetrical is going to be covered in this video. So just to get right into it, I broke it down into a few folders of just different types of details. So like the stuff at the front, which I will go back. Well, it's kind of clear, but it's just this stuff. Everything else goes away. So I started out with doing this maintenance hatch here. So I'll just run down. I started out with just an extrude using the front reference plane, or the front reference image, which is this one, to position it. And I just did a extrude, pretty subtle extrude, just to get that panel. And then a second extrude, because there's kind of a lip on it, so that's where that is. A fillet on the corner there just to smooth it out. The bolt pattern based on the schematics, and then just some other details. This plane here is just a center plane for this little structure, and then because there's a hook there, so this curve is drawn. It's a sketch on sketch, so it's a sketch on the front plane, or on, sorry, it's, where is that? I'll just show it, because it's not wanting to be visible. Okay, so there's two sketches here. There's this that gives the kind of rounded profile, and this one that gives this arch. And when you do a curve, where you do a sketch on a sketch, so this is kind of like a projection, but it just does a sketch on a sketch. You get this kind of resulting curve that has the profile that I want the final hook to have. So then I just do a sweep with a sweep function on a circular profile, and then I do a pair of fillets. So this is the first one, and the second one just to round it out and clean it up. And that's how this kind of access hatch was modeled. Then you've got the this piece here, which is pretty straightforward. It's just some extrudes and some fillets on the edges. So I won't go into too much detail on that, but you start out extruding this, rounding it off, and then extruding the bolts, extruding this little platform, and then rounding it off. And this platform, I did a taper. So what you can do there is, if you have like a detail that's kind of conical, you can use this function, the draft, and set an angle. So you can see I can change the angle, and it changes how that piece is angled. So it just, you're extruding, but you're coming in at an angle, so you get like a more conical shape. So that's how that's done. And then for the driver hatch, it's a little bit more involved. You can see there's more operations. But so setting up the kind of like rim with a thin extrude. So that's just the profile of the boundary of the hatch. And then I've got the hatch itself, which I'll go back in time so you can see what the different operations look like. So I just start out with kind of a block that I'm going to subtract from. So this block kind of represents the base outline of the hatch. And then I'm going to take the side view and I'm going to cut to get that profile. I'm going to round it off right here. So you can kind of see there's a sharp edge, and now there's not. And what did I move copy? I think I just adjusted its position slightly here, so pretty subtle. In fact, it's so subtle you can not really notice it. But there's a slight... Oh, you know what that was actually? No, that wasn't moving it. That was making a duplication of it, because what I wanted to do is I wanted to chamfer, but I wanted to keep this flat profile but have it chamfer on the second profile. So you can see I made it into two bodies. So one of them has this chamfer, and the other one does not. That way I can get this flat portion and the chamfer in the same file, or in the same like body later on. So I duplicated the body, did that feature because I wanted to preserve some details from the original, and then I cut it so you can see how it's got that flat piece that then has the chamfer coming out of it. And then when I combine them, it has more of the correct geometry. And then there's a series of fillets to fillets to round everything off. And here I'm adding these like kind of hinge pieces. Is a very blocky thing, and then I subtract out some material to round them off. I make the little vision port, and you can see there's the seam because this is a separate part right now from the hull. And then I add it to the hull, and that'll get rid of that seam. And that's how I did this hatch. So pretty straightforward there. Next I do the radiator, which is this piece here. So I open up with just an extrude along the length. So I set up a plane at the front where I want it to go, using the side view as reference. And then I extrude it using the side view again to the extent that it's supposed to be extruded. And there's this kind of inset here. So I do a cut to get that inset. And then I want to do a grill. So I decided to do two types of grills in this model, just to or I guess meshes, just to kind of show some different ways to do it. So here I just did these circular profiles and extruded them down the length, and then did a linear pattern inside the sketch to get all the way down. And I do the same for the opposite direction, and it gives me this kind of texture that will look nice on 3D printing, even though it looks a little artificial here. And then just some bolts. So these bolts came out from that extrude. This is like the extension of the plate, because this plate is a separate piece that's stacked on top of these plates. And I believe that's the same thing here, a bolt. And then the bolt pattern, and that closes off this, I imagine this is a radiator. I'm not quite sure, because there's also a radiator in the back that would have a fan under it, and this doesn't seem like it would have a fan. I'm not quite sure what role this would play, but it doesn't really matter. It's a detail on the actual tank, so I modeled it. And then I do the engine deck in the back here, including the exhausts. So that's going to take a second to load. Alright, so here it is, these details. So again, it's just kind of the asymmetric, it's the asymmetric details. So I started out by making the exhausts. So I just did the kind of exhaust pipe here, rounded off this end, and this is an asymmetric fillet. So what that means is you can set this parameter to asymmetric, and then you can have two different lengths. So like this 0.025 inch length is in this direction, the other length is in this direction. You can see I can just kind of extend it in just that direction while preserving this. So that's kind of convenient. Then I added this exhaust, like the little pipe, and I added these pieces here. They're just kind of the caps. Copied it, so I made it so it went from here, where it's just the one pipe, and I duplicated it down here, and you can see that's not quite the right position because I misplaced this top one, but luckily you can do a body move without copying. So in the body move, you have the option to copy as a checkbox. So if you don't copy, you can just move parts or bodies, which is really convenient. Then I started building these brackets that kind of hold it up. So I started with the block and then just kind of cut it and added those details. What's this? So these are little bolts that don't appear to have shown up. I might have to go back and edit that because they extruded in the wrong direction. So I'm just going to flip that right now. So I improved the model. So those bolts come out. And then just some more rounding. So here, it's just rounding this end. And these are two separate parts right now, so I have to fillet them separately, because if they were together, this seam would cause an issue. So it's just more convenient to do them separately and then combine them to get that seam. And then here, I'm going to do some 3D sketches. So I just kind of drew line, 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 and then fillet the corners to match the profile. of the pipe, and then I do a sweep, and you can do sweeps along 3D sketches to get these like pipes just taking more sophisticated routes to where they need to be. And then it's the same for the second pipe, doing the same thing. So this is going to be the exhaust pipes that go to the mufflers and then get ejected from the vehicle. And here, just more brackets, and then this rounds off the bracket. So those are the exhausts for the vehicle. And then you've got the radiator in the back. So I'll load that up. Okay, so this radiator in the back took a second to load because of this grill, or I guess the mesh. But essentially I did an extrude of just the basic shape, again with that kind of draft angle to it. So instead of being conical because the base is round, now it's a square base, or a rectangular base, so it just kind of tapers in. I cut out the inner profile, so to get that inset, I add these crossbars, but not quite as high as this original piece, just so they stand out. This plane was used to do something. Oh yeah, this plane is just to set the height of the mesh. And then the mesh is done, and that is done with, I made one of these diamond shapes and then just patterned it. And then I took that pattern, I offset it to this kind of diagonal, and then I took those two lines and patterned them down. That's probably not the best explanation, but it's just making a sketch that has this shape. So it's a little involved, and the extrude takes a little bit of time to compute. And then I did these bolts, and that's how this exhaust, or this radiator is. And I believe this is the radiator because there would be room for a fan inside there, and here not so much. And then there's just this piece, which is a bunch of extrudes, so I won't belabor the point there. But it's just another panel with details, bolts, and stuff. And then there's this final detail, which is again extrudes, which is just kind of this plate on the roof. So yeah, that's how I put together the hull with all the asymmetrical details. There's a few more details, like the idler wheel is going to be have the tensioning mechanism in the back and stuff here, but I am going to do that after I put the tracks on. That way I can align them properly. So in the next video, I will be going to this stage with the turret. So I'll be showing the process of modeling this turret, and also adding it's just an extrude cut, but adding this hole into the hull. And something new I'm trying is adding these pins to kind of lock in the turrets. And I realized this pin isn't going to work in this configuration for the reason that it's not going to be able to rotate through here. So that's something I'm going to need to fix, but that's what I'm going to show in the next video, is how to do the turret for the most part. So these kind of interesting angles and all that stuff. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.